What's going on, everyone? So big one today. After all the hard work and long hours we put into them, we finally get to install the heads on the block today. Let's get to it. So the first thing we have to do is prep the mating surface for the head, and what we'll use for that is this rag soaked in isopropyl alcohol, and we'll wipe the entire surface here. Next step we'll take here is to use a clean Scotch-Brite pad to remove some of the surface rust we got here on the mating surface. This might not be something required for you if you're doing this and don't have any rust or any corrosion on your head surface, but I do, so I'll give this a quick clean. So no need to go crazy there with the sanding pad, and once we're done with that, we'll go ahead and give the block another quick wipe down just to make sure we have any residue off. Our next step here is to set the motor to top dead center. There's two ways to do that. The easiest way and the most common way is to install this timing belt cover here and then go ahead and install the crank pulley. Once you have the cover installed, we'll go ahead and rotate the crank, and we'll do that till you see this timing mark here in red. I've highlighted in red for you guys. Meet the timing mark on the timing belt cover. That's how you know the engine is at top dead center. Another way to do it is to have cylinder number 3, which is back here on the passenger side, closest to the firewall, all the way at the top of its cycle. Once we have the block all set, we'll go ahead and open up our head gasket. We'll come to the block now and lay the gasket on the head, making sure that we put it on correctly with all the markings and the lettering facing up, as well as every edge following every edge of the block here. Okay, I'm about to bring over the head, but just to show you here, this little dowel here and then the one back here as well are what we're going to use to line up the head with the block. Now that we have the heads in place, it's time to install the new head bolts. Keep in mind that these head bolts do stretch when you're torquing them down, so you do have to replace them every time you go ahead and reinstall heads, unless you have aftermarket bolts like the ones from ARP that don't stretch when you install them. So now it's time to install the head bolts. The head bolt manufacturer recommends that we oil up the threads on the head bolt before we do install them, so we'll go ahead and do that before we install each one. So to tighten these bolts, you do need a special tool. It's an M10 poly drive socket. You can find these on Amazon, probably at local AutoZone or any other hardware store, but this is what you need to get these done. So we did get a torquing sequence chart from the head gasket manufacturer, so we'll follow this when we're torquing down the bolts. So you see here, it's just really a crisscross pattern starting in the middle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7, and that's just so we get pretty even pressure throughout the entire gasket while we're tightening it down. But before we even start tightening it down, we'll go ahead and get all the bolts threaded in by hand. So manufacturer recommendations for the torquing sequence on the head gasket and the bolts is to do the crisscross pattern I showed you earlier, starting at 40 Newton meters and working our way up to 60 in 2 steps, and then a 90-degree turn on the head bolt to finish deforming the bolt and finish up the torquing sequence. We're going to take that a step further and start at 20 Newton meters when we're tightening the bolts, work our way up to 40, then 60, and then do that 90-degree turn. Alright, so we have the torque wrench set to 20 Newton meters, so we'll get started on the torquing sequence now. Alright, so we're done with the 20 Newton meter torquing sequence, so we'll move the torque wrench to 40 and get started there. So now we have all the bolts torqued down to the required 60 Newton meters. So now we break out the torque wrench to crank them that final 90 degrees and we're all set. One done. And that's also my workout for the day. And with that final bolt, the heads are fully installed, so we're good to go to start on the other side. Let's get to it. So after carefully reading the instruction sheet, we could see here that there is a second 90-degree turn required to finish tightening up the bolts, so we'll get that done right now. And that's 8. All done there. Alright, so I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and the progress we're making. In the next one, we're going to take a look at timing the motor and installing the timing belt. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one. Peace.